I have been pondering this a lot recently. Do you ever think there was a time when there was like no professional wrestling? Because in 2020, all you gotta do is wake up and poof, boom, there it is. There'll be a pay-per-view, there'll be a show. If you wanna watch wrestling all the time, now you can. And isn't that nice? Especially because it brings you sports entertainment. Yes, it is. My name is Simon Miller. You have tuned into Ups and Downs, the show, if you don't know, where we give the good bits an up and the bad bits a down. Then that one guy goes, why don't you just call it a review show? Hey man, we're just having some fun here. We're having a good time. Don't make me find you and slap you around. I wouldn't do that. I'd buy you a coffee and I'd just throw positive thoughts into your face. As you can tell, I really enjoyed NXT TakeOver. It's made me feel all wibbly wobbly. Let's give the good bits up and the bad bits a down for that damn show. NXT has moved to the Capitol Wrestling Center, which is just a rejigged performance center. Man, WWE can be so confusing, especially because I just said WWE, but we're talking about NXT. How does anybody new get into this? Forget all that though, because not only does it look absolutely amazing, it's kind of like the Thunderdome, but with a more raw, ironically edgy feel, because that's what NXT is all about. And as for the show itself, well, ooda lally, you in for a wild ride. And that all started with our first match. It was Johnny Gargano versus Damien Priest for the North American title, and I just think Damien Priest is coming into his own recently, which is exactly what Triple H said after he won that championship. And we're starting to pitch him more and more as a monster, because Johnny Gargano just ran at him to start this, and then when he got in within a few inches of him, he just backed up, because he was like, this is a really bad idea. Being a takeover show, we had to go nuts as soon as we possibly can, which is why pretty early on, like Damien and Johnny Gargano were fighting on the apron and the ring mat, and Johnny Gargano kind of grabbed Damien Priest's arm between his groin, pulled him, and Damien Priest flipped and just slammed right onto the mat. Now, it wasn't the most spectacular bump you've ever seen, but it just looked like it really hurt, like the thud of back hitting floor. Sometimes I forget how much this must hurt. Like a pancake falling right onto the carpet, because you're crap at doing that whole flippy thing. And yes, I'm referring to myself. This also had a great atmosphere because in the CWC, the Capitol Wrestling Center, not only did we have wrestlers making noise, but we had some actual fans, and you have all the LED boards, so this all just felt alive, it felt real. And all of those people exploded when we started to play the game of Can Gargano Get Away from the Razor's Edge, because Damien Priest kept trying it over and over here, eventually caught Johnny on the outside and then went, I know what I can do, I'll now hit it, and he slammed him right into the ring apron. That's the hardest part of the ring. The real joy of the whole thing is that Johnny Gargano is such a good wrestler that despite Damien Priest being about 103 feet tall and Johnny Gargano being the size of a worm, that never really came into play here. I suspended my disbelief wonderfully and actually thought Gargano could win. However, when Damien Priest was able to strike him with a sit-out chokeslam, I was a little bit like, that should be the finish, man. That move looked absolutely crazy, and Johnny Gargano just kicked out too. It was a great tease though when Damien did go for a big dive, but Johnny Gargano got out of the way and threw a couple of security guards in there instead, and then when he had the Gargano escape locked on, for just a split second you thought, are they going to change the North American Championship this soon? But Damien Priest was able to get to the ropes. It was all par for the course though, because eventually Damien did hit the reckoning to get the 1-2-3 and retain his championship, and I thought this was a pretty damn good way to start a pay-per-view. The rumor, of course, is that now Johnny and Candice, LeRae, given what's going to happen in a few matches, are headed to the main roster, and some people are rightfully worried about that, because you remember they tried that before, and it wasn't a massive success. I don't know, as a duo, they're so creative, and I think he's got more of a cool side to him as a bad guy. I'm not totally against it. We'll wait and see, especially because the draft is right around the corner. Either way, this rocked. We then segued into Kushida versus the Velveteen Dream. And there was a little bit more intrigue here, because on a conference call before NXT TakeOver, Triple H just said, well, Velveteen Dream's personal life and how immature he is in that is now affecting his professional life. My eyebrow went up, and I was like, well, what the hell does that mean? One of the fallouts of it, though, did seem to come in the form of allowing Kushida just to absolutely show how great he is as a professional wrestler. And because of that, and mostly because of the former New Japan guy, it is getting it up. This was especially true because in the opening few moments, this was like playing NBA Jam when you're on fire, except the ball was Velveteen Dream. I don't know, Michael Jordan was Kushida. He just didn't let up. And if you had told me at this very point it's going to be a squash match, I'd have gone, yeah, I believe you. It wasn't a squash match, so I was completely wrong and you lied to me, but I was invested. Because eventually Dream did cut him off with his new grey hair and started to work away on him. But look, I tell you, that didn't last very long. And Kushida went back to what had worked before because he did that crazy arm into the post move again. And not only did it seem like Velveteen Dream broke his arm, but because one of his gloves came off, for just the smallest of seconds, I went, oh my gosh, he lost his hand. Because I'm an idiot. From here, Kushida just went after all the arm bars. And I don't care, man. I think Velveteen Dream must have upset somebody backstage. Because not only did he hit the DVD, not only did he hit the Purple Rainmaker, but Kushida, he just kicked out. Now, don't get me wrong. The Velveteen Dream took about 72 years to make the cover, but a kick out is a kick out. The flipping coolest part was after a few more moves, he went back for the DVD again, and Kushida reversed that into another like Kimura armbar thing, and he actually made the Dream tap out. That was great, and it was even better still because he wasn't done, and as Velveteen Dream was on the floor, he continued to just pulverize the crap out of him, and surely this has got to end in some kind of angle where Velveteen Dream goes away for a long time once more, because it sounds like he needs a little bit of education when it comes to life. This was Kushida's best all-round performance in ages though, and he actually got the win, which sometimes does not happen at NXT. He looked like a killer, and I felt pleased. We then got a kind of out of nowhere announcement, because in 3 weeks' time, NXT is going all WCW, because Halloween Havoc is coming back. It's going to air on a Wednesday night, and I wonder why they would be doing that. But look, I'll be honest with you. As an old man, I remember Halloween Havoc. This made me feel all fuzzy in my tum-tum because that's what nostalgia did. I am all in for Halloween Havoc, especially because it's gonna be around Halloween. Makes sense. Cruiserweight title action was next, and the key word in that sentence is action. Like, if match 1 was all about story and match 2 was all about characters, this was all about modern pro wrestling where you just go, 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 go and try and kill each other. Because it was Santo Escobar versus Isaiah Scott, and I think within the first few minutes they had done more flips, twists and turns than a roller coaster. I know that's a little bit of a dad joke, but I mean it literally. Because did somebody tell these guys that this was it? After they'd had this match, there would be no more high-flying moves ever allowed again in professional wrestling because they did so many, it was potty. From my American friends, over here in the UK, potty means like crazy nuts. It doesn't mean the urinal, the toilet that kids use. I'm not relating that to a sports entertainment contest. It was then like wrestling tennis. They just went back and forth and back and forth. And the only real blip is when Escobar went for this power slam thingy and instead just threw Scott right on his shoulders. And the commentators tried to make up for this, but you could tell it had fallen by the wayside. But again, if you had done a maths test and there was a million questions and you got all but one of them right and somebody went, ha ha, you loser, you got one wrong, you are allowed to punch that person in the face. Escobar's mates were out here to try and help him, but then Ashanti Adonis came out to hit Scott, who was like, I can't handle it. And then there was so many near falls, I think the official count was 62,757. And the best one, was a 450 by Isaiah. I honestly think he must have kicked out at like 2.99999. It was so close. I also thought the finish was really creative as long as it wasn't an accident, and I'm pretty sure that it wasn't. Because these two were fighting on the ring apron and Scott fell down, but he clonked his head on the ring post. And it basically knocked him silly, and he's all stumbling around like, I don't know what's going on. That was the last thing that he wanted because Escobar jumped on that like white on rice. He gave him that underhook GTS thing, which, my word, looks like a murder weapon, it's so bad. He got the 1, 2, 3, and he was able to retain his championship. But again, because that weird knockout spot was awkwardly done, it actually looked like he got knocked out. Both guys came out the other side smelling of roses though, and I honestly felt like I needed to lay down after this. It was absolutely exhausting. I don't know how they kept the pace up to the level they did. Yes, a round of applause, which is a big deal here on Ups and Downs, even though it was just me smashing skin together. At this point, we do need to mention it because it's where I noticed it, and if I don't talk about it, the comments will go nuts. Yes, even though Vic Joseph, Beth Phoenix, and Wade Barrett are on commentary, they were not at the announce booth So every time you saw them, there was Vic Joseph and then just two random people. This was so funny because it was so stupid. But I guess what you're gonna do, that's what a global pandemic needs. And then it was Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae for the women's title. I mean, it was all just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this was just a sheer professional wrestling spectacle that around 3/4 of the way through became sports entertainment, but it was so well put together and it segued together so beautifully, I had no problems with it at all. It calmed down at one point because Candice LeRae slowed the pace and she was just laying in some vicious strikes, but that made her slightly overconfident because she went for a senton and she absolutely missed. It's like me playing baseball, just where did the ball go? It opened the door for Shirai, who went through it and went absolutely nuts. But in this fracas, again, here comes the sports entertainment, the referee took a bump. That did mean Candice LeRae hit that stomp move that she does, and she had the 1, 2, 3, but again, there was no official to make the count, so what were we gonna do? Well, according to husband Johnny Gargano, who walked down here, he had decided, well, I'm the referee now, just because he had put a referee shirt on. We did this recently too. Remember, Bailey thought the same thing. It's like some kind of virus going around the place and infecting people's heads. And look, if Johnny Gargano thinks he can be the referee, well, I'm the ref. See? I mean, we've done this joke before. I haven't run all the other jokes here on Ups and Downs into the ground, but I will do it again. Anyway, Johnny Gargano couldn't believe this, even though Candice LeRae clearly didn't get the 1, 2, 3. Io Shirai kicked out, and then the referee was back on his feet and everybody was arguing, and that dastardly Johnny slipped the NXT Women's title to his wife. She smacked the champion right in the head, and once again you're like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be the finish. But it wasn't. The whole point of it was to make you think that we were gonna do a title switch, but we weren't. Io Shirai hit the most crazy Spanish fly, followed it up with that wonderful moonsault, and she remains the NXT Women's Champion. But not only was this absolutely faboo, but yes, it adds more fuel to the fire that maybe husband and wife are going up to the main roster. If that wasn't enough too, though, there was aftermath to all of this. Because Toni Storm, you remember her, she's been missing for the last 10,000 years, she popped up and she was all like, all right mate, here I come, I've decided to come back to the NXT, I don't know who that's meant to be, but I've decided to come back to NXT and now I'm going after your title. And Io Shirai was like, yeah, okay, you want to bring it? And she was also probably wondering, why was this video shot like Toni Storm? Was Holly from Red Dwarf? But it was very exciting. And look, I know there was plenty of gaga here, but it's all about execution, and I thought it was executed really well. And then we even had some more. Because I'm gonna guess that we were meant to assume that Toni Storm was the person that had been featured in all these vignettes leading up to NXT TakeOver. You know, it'd been all green and someone's going, I want a title. But no, it absolutely wasn't, because then we cut to the outside and we saw somebody on a motorbike. And I was like, oh man, it's The Undertaker. Of course it's The Undertaker. What better way to come out of retirement than heading to NXT? Because you know that guy who's always saying, oh, I'm done. He's never done. But it wasn't, because this person then stormed into the CWC and they removed their helmet. And for some reason, it was an extra from the new Mad Max movie. I was like, well, that was a little bit anticlimactic. I am, of course, joking again. It was Ember Moon, who was genuinely dressed like somebody from the Mad Max movie, but this was just so satisfying. It was so wonderful. She was never used right on Raw and SmackDown. She never really got her due, but she was awesome in NXT. I guess she is now over her injury, and now she too is going after the championship. I ask you this, dear friend, dear reader, you're not reading, you're watching, but who has a better women's division than NXT? That thing is so stacked. All of this was good. It was then our main event, which was ludicrous, as it barely felt like NXT TakeOver had got started. It was Kyle O'Reilly going after the NXT Championship, held by Finn Balor. Apparently, I was the referee for this, but it is getting it up. Because this was our big match of the night, it started so slowly, it started so methodically, but that just got it into your bones and your groin and your guts and your liver that you were watching something really important, and that's how I felt from start to finish. This also got some serious time, and Kyle O'Reilly, man, I don't know if he'll ever get a championship match again, but I was rooting for him so much, but I also kind of wanted Finn Balor to win because that's how it had been set up. Just a couple of thumbs. Balor beat up Kyle O'Reilly pretty bad in the early going, so as soon as Kyle O'Reilly was able to get back into it, he beat up Finn Balor, And I'm pretty sure that's the conversation they must have had behind the scenes. They didn't want to leave anything to chance, so they just laid their shots in so hard. One of the kits, to like Kyle O'Reilly's midsection, I thought it must have busted up his ribs. There's also this sharpshooter that Balor put on the Undisputed Era, man, that he sold as if he'd been sent to the Phantom Zone. Honestly, if you can't invest in this, you can't invest in professional wrestling. It set something off in Kyle, though, who fought back, including him getting Finn Balor in an arm lock, who stomped his way out of it. And how do you stomp your way out of anything? And when he hit the 1916, you were like, oh, that's it. But it wasn't. Kyle O'Reilly kicked out, and I went, ah! Like I was giving birth. Balor turned into somewhat of a dick here, because he was acting like he couldn't stand, and then Kyle O'Reilly gave him a German suplex, but he just rolled right out of it. But there was still this flying knee thing from Kyle O'Reilly, which made me believe up to the last second. Fortunately, it wasn't to be. Finn Balor climbed to the top rope, he hit the coup de grace, he got the 1, 2, 3, and if you're wondering, Simon, you didn't really tell us about many of the moves. I can't do it justice. I don't have it in my bald head to do that. You just have to go and watch it. If you want to tell me this is one of the best NXT TakeOver main events you have seen in some time, I ain't going to argue with you. In fact, I'm going to come on your side. This is going to come on your side, and I'll be behind you going, yeah, yeah. Like when you used to get those bullies, and then people would hang out behind the bullies because they didn't want to be a bully, but they didn't want to be bullied. Point is, excellent. There was also blood everywhere when we were all said and done. Like it was pouring out of Finn Balor's mouth to the point maybe it was fake. But then we also found out afterwards he had to go get his jaw checked out in a local medical facility by local medical facility professionals. And that wouldn't surprise me either. Again, it was so stiff. It was probably legit. And given that NXT is in a ratings war too, we didn't end there because we actually had a cliffhanger. This is the kind of thing we need to be doing. Because we had both guys embracing each other, which is of course what you do after a wrestling match where you try to kill each other, when Ridge Holland just walked out carrying Adam Cole over his shoulder. Now this wasn't like some kind of parent who was being nice to their child who was fallen asleep. Somebody had attacked this man and he just dumped him on the floor. And I will say this, obviously you're meant to think this was Ridge Holland, but was it? Did we see him do it? No, maybe he was actually just very concerned. I mean, that clearly wasn't the case at all. The rest of the Undisputed Era, they're out there and they were really concerned about poor Adam Cole going, Finn Balor, what have you done? And Finn Balor has a pretty damn good alibi. He was just in the ring having a match. But now I want to know what's going to go down here, especially because I don't trust Fish or Strong. Something smells up here. I think we're about to have some kind of division between the Undisputed Era. And yeah, that's how the show ended too. So now if you want to know what's going to go happen, you've got to tune in on Wednesday. And yes, I know there were no downs on this show, but what can I do? Where would I find a down from? I can't just pull downs from out of my ass, which some people say I do. See, I am an honest tamale, like I always say. If you have no intentions of watching this, change that. What a lovely thing to be able to see on a Sunday night or a Monday morning. Overall, it is getting it up. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know what you thought about last night's NXT TakeOver. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Then head over to WhatCulture.com, read yourself some articles, follow WhatCulture on Twitter, WhatCulture WWE, and watch more videos here on WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Simon Miller, the official referee of all of wrestling, because I'm wearing a shirt and that's how it works. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon. This week, we got loads of ups and downs, so I really hope you like the format of the show.